Roll call. Butler.
Here.
Fisher.
Here.
Armstrong. McNutt.
Here.
Ward.
Here.
Essig. Here. Knopfinger.
Here.
If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Is there student council members to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could you introduce yourselves, tell us what year you are in school, and maybe a little bit about student council or anything else you want to tell us about?
I'm Greta Hudson, I'm a junior. I'm Cindy Grime, and I'm a senior. I'm Becca Mayberg, and I'm a junior. So this week is our vice versa week, so we decided that we were going to do like a spirit week kind of thing. So our vice versa theme this year is decades. So Mondays, 50s, Tuesdays, 60s, and 70s, and then Wednesdays, 80s, Thursdays, 90s, and then Friday is early 2000s, so we're all like dressing up this week and stuff. It's super fun. And then we're having multiple fundraisers throughout the week to support like brain cancer research is where like the money is going to. And so tomorrow night we have our intramural games. So it's like the intramural championship and the staff is getting in on it. And they're gonna play like the all-star team that the school voted on from the intramurals, who like are the best players. And then Wednesday, part of the proceeds from Ice Cream Shack that night are going to our fundraiser. And then Thursday night, Brick House has a fundraiser going on for us. Yeah. And then the dance is Saturday.
Do you have a lot of people signed up for the dance, or is it just at the door, or how is that handled?
We've been selling tickets this week and then last week, and I think that we have a pretty good turnout so far, or we should. But yeah, more than in the past, because we're trying to really bump that enrollment up.
Any other questions? Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yep, thank you.
Moving on to an action item, 4.1, which is the resolution for our wrestling team, which looks like they're all here. I'm excited to have you here. I'm going to go ahead and read the resolution. And Washington Community High School, the resolution is March 11, 2019. Whereas the Washington Community High School Board of Education is committed to excellence in its academic and extracurricular programs. And whereas the Panther varsity wrestling team has excelled in both these areas. And whereas the 2019 wrestling team had an undefeated conference season and has won the Mid-Illini Conference Championship for the 10th consecutive year, extending to the Mid-Illini record, qualifying 7 wrestlers for the state tournament and had 6 all-state wrestlers, and was the regional champion for 9 out of the 10 years, and won the 5th consecutive team state trophy and the 4th consecutive team state championship. Wow. And whereas the team has demonstrated exceptional sportsmanship and reflects well upon our school and community, and whereas the team members have provided positive role models for the youth of our community, and whereas the team exemplifies Panther pride at its very best. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the head varsity coach, Nick Miller, assistant coaches, Matt Webster, Doug Cluster, Mike Carr, Will Hammer, and the members of the 2017 varsity Panther wrestling team are hereby highly commended for their exemplary accomplishments. So thank you.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please. Knopfinger?
Yes.
Essig? Yes. Warren? Yes. McNutt?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Great. Here we go. We're going to give you out some
We're gonna have,
resolutions.
We're going to have Coach Miller talk a little bit about the
Sure.
team, and then we'll hand out the resolution.
Sure.
We had obviously we're here again, so we had another great season. We had a good balance this year of some experience and some young guys, and the start of the season was a little bit of a struggle. I think the state championship's a great thing, but the thing I'm the most proud of with this group of young men is the way they grew throughout the season. Like we took 10 losses as a team this year, and we were still able to come together at the end and be a good enough team to win another state title. The state titles, like I said, it's a great thing, but to watch, from one to the next, and it's really, you know, it's a team title, but it's an individual competing sport. So to watch each of these guys grow and hone their craft through the season and continue to, you know, compete hard and learn every day, it was a great season. That was, in my mind, that was the greatest accomplishment of all this year.
Excellent. Any
Okay.
questions for Nick?
We don't want to forget the coaches too. You got this.
We have the best coaching staff in the state of Illinois.
Yes, yes.
We're going to start handing out the resolution, and the first one is Stephen Apgar. Blake Berry. Josh Biagini. Thomas Blackery.
Congratulations.
Joey Cake.
Congratulations.
Tyler Casey.
Congratulations.
Dylan Cooper.
Congratulations.
Jackson Ellis.
Congratulations.
And Jared Head.
Congratulations.
And come back down here. We're going to start down here with Donnie. Thank you. So they're going to switch spots. Perfect. Donnie hit it. Abe Henderson.
Congratulations.
Zeke Hewlett.
Congratulations.
Chaz Mercer.
Congratulations.
Brody Norman.
Congratulations.
Jesse Friend.
Congratulations.
Jace Punky.
Congratulations.
Gabe Robertson.
Congratulations.
And Jacob Salberger.
Congratulations.
And the coaches down here at the end. First one is Matt Webster.
Congratulations.
Doug McClister.
Congratulations.
Mike Carr.
Congratulations.
Will Hammer.
Congratulations.
And head coach Nick Miller.
Congratulations.
That's it. I'll take the rest of it. Yes.
Thank you so much.
And that's your four-time state champion. Then we have someone else here smiling at me right now. Jace, you're a two-time state champion, right?
Yeah.
I think he's expecting that you were going to make him give a speech.
Yeah. Not till the 30th. That's what I wanted to bring up about Jace. Jace was nominated and accepted into the Hall of Fame at the Peoria, I think it's called the
Greater Peoria Sports Hall.
Yep. And he's the male athlete of the year. Wow. You guys have to speak for about 3 or 4 minutes at that.
It's a work in progress.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
oh, wait.
One more.
Hey, one more.
I will say that.
It's like they did not get this She's
Okay, that was pretty exciting. So we're moving on now to visitors and correspondence. And we also have another group of people that need to be given certificates to, and how proud we are of you that all the things that you did. So the first one is the recognition of the academic first team All-State. And Sierra Sonamaker, are you here? You want to come on up? Did you want to say anything about what you did?
Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah. Okay. So the IHSA All-State Academic Team I was chosen as one of 26 students in the state to be recognized for both having good academics and participating in at least 2 varsity sports for the past 2 years.
We really appreciate you coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And a little bit more about the state election. There's 26 across the state that's chosen. There's over 1,000 entries that they choose from. And Sierra was a great nomination. She was in a 3-sport athlete for 4 years, and then all of her extracurriculars and volunteer. And of course, her GPA helped out, and they had to write an essay and get 2 recommendation letters from teachers. So it's one of 20. She's one of 26 of over 1,000 that put in for it, and plus it's a money scholarship of $2,500 from Caterpillar, correct?
I thought it was 1,000.
$1,000, yeah, $1,000 from Caterpillar.
Very nice. Congratulations again. Okay, and then we have a couple more recognitions of IHSA state speech finalists. And we've got Ava Stovall and Will Crouch. Can you come on up? Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
Did you guys like to speak, so I
They didn't make the wrestlers wrestle.
Yeah.
It was a team effort. And thanks to Mrs. Craig, Mrs. Noe, and my second mother, Mrs. Stoutright, as well as our entire team. This is all of us together, as well as Lizzie, who you're going to see in quite a few short minutes.
Quite a second.
I'm pretty proud of you. I was over at the PRI Civic Center when that was going on, and there was a lot of people there, so it's a good turnout. So congratulations again.
Congratulations.
And then we have one more tonight. This is a state champion, and it's Lizzie Link. Can you come on up, please?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure she got her own Peoria Journal-Star headline
Yes,
as well.
she did.
48 years
Front
for Washington.
page.
So, no, today. Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Pretty excited.
We're pretty proud of you for that, and we know it was a huge competition because it's not broken down into divisions, or school divisions. They're all lumped together from what I was told. So that's a pretty big accomplishment through the entire state. Thank you again.
Congratulations.
Before they get that away, I think we owe these people the same standing
Okay, Liz, if you'd like to come back up and let's see your stuff, huh?
Okay. You're going to have to go easy on me. It's been a few months since I've competed with this, so.
So I kind of hate to admit it, but I watched The Bachelor. I'm still a bit of a virgin to the show, but from what I can tell, it's mostly Colton showering, a bunch of drunk people, and a lot of blonde girls I can't tell apart. And I'm a blonde girl. But the show surprised me a few months ago when contestant Caitlin Miller-Keys shared that she had been sexually assaulted while in college. Her story is a narrative heard far too often, but what was striking was when she said she waited until over a year after the fact to tell her mother. In fact, Washington Post columnist Monica Hess told NPR of... Oh my God, I'm sorry. I told you guys you'd have to go easy on me. In fact, Washington Post columnist Monica Hess noticed a similar common thread in who the survivors she's spoken to struggled talking to the most. Their loved ones. Hess told NPR of October 3rd, 2018. This inspired her to start a column called Dear Dads, Your Daughters Told Me About Their Assault. This is why they never told me. I encourage you to read the column because it is absolutely powerful and it underlines a major issue. We've spent the last year and a half talking about why survivors don't go public with their stories. But I don't think we've spent enough time talking about why they don't come private. So today, we're going to talk about why survivors can struggle coming to their loved ones with their experiences, how we can respond better when they do come to us, and what we can do to create a culture to support survivors. Because the hardest part of sexual assault should not be telling the people who love you. Now, I want to start this off by saying that nobody teaches us how to respond after someone we love says they've been assaulted. It's completely normal to become overwhelmed with emotions, or fall back on a base of knowledge that might not be entirely correct, bringing us to just two of the many reasons survivors can struggle coming to their loved ones: fear of our responses, and misinformation about what assault is. First, at the trial for Larry Nassar, a former physician at Michigan State University who has been convicted of serial child molestation, the father of 3 girls abused by Nassar rushed him at the stand while his daughters testified, according to CNN at February 2nd, 2018. The father's actions, though completely understandable, exemplify this first issue. According to Bentley University's webpage, last accessed January 11th, 2019, one of the worst things you can do is become extremely emotional or act aggressively after someone shares their story with you. Let's put it this way. When we respond with strong negative emotions against the abuser, we don't quite help the person in front of us. However, this is not everyone's reason for choosing to stay silent. According to the National Center for Sexual Violence Research, last accessed January 1st, 2019, assault can manifest in a multitude of forms, from any unwanted sexual contact to coerced activities. It's a term that is incredibly hard to define, and it's a crime that does not discriminate. But PBS of September 21st, 2018, said far too often we think of assault as only a violent and forced penetration, where a man is the perpetrator and a woman is the victim. When we think of assault only by this definition, we can unintentionally minimize the experiences of survivors around us by making it seem like we consider them to be illegitimate. This is some really heavy stuff. I know. It's completely natural for you to feel a little icky hearing about it. But we have to channel that feeling of discomfort into change. We all want to be the kind of people our loved ones can come to with these issues. And there are ways we can respond better when they do come to us. Saying the right things and letting our loved ones control the situation. First, the Chicago Tribune of November 3rd, 2018 gives 3 go-to phrases to use after someone shares their story with you. I believe you. It's not your fault. And you have options. Once you say these things, let the conversation become organic and let your loved one guide it. But if you're like me, you want to do more than talk when bad things happen. According to Planned Parenthood's website, last accessed February 11th, 2019, you should never report your friend's assault without their consent or pressure them into doing so, because it takes their control over the situation away all over again. Instead, they say, listen, be supportive, stay calm, remind your friend to pursue necessary health care like testing and counseling, and continue to check in on them. Just make sure your loved one is always the person deciding what happens next. This is their story to tell. But these are just 2 proposed responses to a scenario some of us may never encounter. Staying silent about assault can have as much to do with internal conflict as it does with external influences. We can't make anyone come to us with their stories. But what we can do is make sure we behave in a way that is respectful to and supportive of all of those who are not ready to talk about what happened yet. Opening dialogues early and watching our words. First, talking about sexual assault directly is something we need to start doing, even if it is really uncomfortable at first. According to NBC News of September 28, 2018, when we open dialogues early, we show a willingness to talk about this. The benefits are twofold. First, it allows us to show our support for survivors while still letting them maintain their comfortable level of anonymity. And second, it can make those hard conversations easier when they do become necessary. However, for this method to work at all, we need to watch our words. It should always be remembered that anyone could be a survivor. Because of this, we need to be extremely cognizant of the words we use and the implications they could have for the people around us. Take, for instance, how we refer to people who have experienced misconduct. Often we refer to them as women or victims. But what if we said survivors instead? It is inclusive of all genders and sexualities, and it has this positive connotation that refers more to an individual's strength and resilience rather than defining them by someone else's actions. Imagine what we could do if we were that conscious of all the words we used. Because when we do this, we create a culture of thoughtfulness, openness, and respect. Things we could all use. Now, there is a reason I've chosen to talk about this to a group of primarily high school students. One, this is the best platform to practice advocacy, and I want to make sure I'm using it to its full potential. And two, they're the ones who need to hear this the most. According to RAIN, the nation's largest sexual assault helpline, 54% of survivors are between the ages of 18 and 34. We are fast approaching this age group, making it imperative that we understand both how to help our friends and what we should accept as help if it ever does happen to us. Survivors never have to fear talking to the people who love them the most. And we, as those people who love them, can make sure they don't have to.
If I may, to explain what Lizzie just presented was her original oratory. If you notice, the last date was February 11th, 2019. She wrote that speech. She continued to update it throughout the year, and then performed it almost continually, not having this down pat. She was continually changing it and making it better. So that in and of itself is quite an accomplishment. She is very accomplished, and I think that we must also acknowledge Ava and Will. How many times did you take your HDA out before you took it to state? How many times did you compete?
No.
Twice?
Yeah.
Regional, sectional, state.
We took it out twice before state.
Because of all of the bad weather, they didn't get to compete until they went to regionals, and they were 6th in state. This is quite an accomplishment for Mrs. Stout and her coaches and her team as well. I just want to make sure that you are aware of that.
Very nice. Thank you so much.
It's a great accomplishment.
So are you doing speech in college?
I'm not sure yet. I don't know where I'm going, so.
So thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Have a nice night, everyone.
Important message.
Thank you.
I wish I would have.
Okay, moving on. Let's see where we are. 5.4, Peoria Notre Dame correspondence. They sent a letter that we could review. And then moving on to reports. They were in your board packet, the dean's report, enrollment report, early intervention report, and then on to 6.4, the financial report. Dr. Joe Sanders.
Okay, you have your treasurer's report there, and then I'm going to take you out to the financial dashboard where the other two reports are located. And so we have, this is our investment report. And we're sitting at a balance of just over $8 million in investments. There will be about $150,000 that will be paid for the project that will come out in the bills that will come out of this bold number right here. And then down below is the insurance report. And so we have started a new year. So this is, you'll see we're back to just January. It was a really good month for the Health Trust Fund. We spent just about $80,000. And so this is a side-by-side comparison last year and this year, and you can see where our expenses were, about $88,000 as compared to last year, $162,000. So we hope that trend continues. Do you have any questions about the financial report?
Thank you so much. Okay, on to 6.5 is board committee reports. We had two facilities, insurance and a finance. And so I guess we'll start with the facilities. We had one that will be approving the minutes on the 14th of February and then also on the 27th of February. And we're having extra ones because we have a construction project going on. So basically we were just working through some of the situations, timelines. The weather has played an issue into that, and then we had some multiple changes that we needed to address that I think we're going to be voting on later tonight in regards to the bleacher part of the project. And that's why we then had a finance committee meeting so that they could keep us abreast of the finances that we're able to pay for some of the changes. So who was at finance? Either one of you want to fill us in on that?
Sure. I was waiting. We decided that we would keep the contingency fund as is. So that was our big decision.
I think we also approved as a committee moving 120,000, approving 120,000 for out of the contingency for. Oh no, that's it. We just
No, that was it. That was it.
Yeah, we approved it for down the road. Yeah.
Right.
O&M, correct?
The O&M
Yes,
fund.
that's O&M contingency, not
Right.
construction contingency.
Right.
So the main point was to make sure we had enough money to be able to make some of these changes is what that was about. So
And also comfort level with paying Autobahn that much money for the.
True. Right. Okay. And then insurance met, and that was just an update.
As Dr. Sanders said previously, our health manager plan is still dissolving. So Dr. Sanders has been very busy. And as of May 1st, we'll be going with consortium. Sorry, I did that again, the wrong one. It's a local group in East Peoria, which is very good for health plans. So I was very pleased that you were able to do that.
Okay, is there any other items you want to add to that, Dr.?
I think they hit the majority of it. The big ticket item we'll talk about in a little bit when we get to the motion on the bleachers. I know I'll just go through a brief description of the project so that everybody understands what we're doing.
Moving on to the discussion and informational items, looks like 7.1, we have a resignation of Ms. Seifert, Tough Love, field notice of violations, what is it? Because that's not coming up on my list. Violations.
That'll be a Dr. Sanders discussion.
Okay.
We had our health, life, safety inspection, and so that's the official document. I don't know why it didn't get loaded up on there. It should have been loaded in that, but it was a typical health, life, safety inspection report. If you weren't able to access it, and I don't know if it was to the board access, I'll get that out to the board members. It's just a write-up of extension cords and
I did read it earlier, but it's just not coming up tonight on this one. But I think I'm on the public one versus the
That would explain it.
Yeah.
So nothing significant, no?
nothing really is significant. We've got a whole bunch of things, little items to correct, but it's typical to the health, life, safety inspection. Nothing major.
Extension cords.
Extension cords and coffee pots and that sort of stuff.
Okay. Moving on to 7.3 is a job description, and it looks like the secretary to the director of student services description has changed to the directive revised job description to the administrative assistant to the principal.
Yes.
Since we have no student service director currently.
Okay. And there were some other changes in it, I don't know.
Most of that just applies to what the job duties are. We went through it with our current assistant and kind of walked through what she's actually doing day to day, which we do periodically, especially when we know we're going to open a position and hire a replacement. So it's just to clearly establish what is expected of that position. most of the changes are just changes that occurred, because I don't think we've touched that job description in probably 10+ years.
It hasn't been, this is my 9th year in this position. It hasn't been touched in those.
So a lot of things have changed in 10 years, so this one's updated to address current needs.
I'm trying to sign on here so I can see that, but I'll just go ahead and run. Any other questions about the job descriptions? Did everybody get a chance to read it over? Okay, great.
And when you do sign in, it should show you the lined out copies.
Yeah, I think it's on here. I did see that earlier. Okay, and then we're moving on to the consent agenda, and the consent agenda is for March 2019. Let's see what all we have here. 8.1 minutes for 8.11 for the regular board meeting minutes of February 11th, 2019. 8.12, the Facilities Committee meeting minutes of February 14th, 2019. 8.13, the Finance Committee meeting minutes from February 25th, 2019. And the 8.14 Facility Committee meetings of February 28th, 27th, 2019. Moving on to the bills, 8.2, and then 8.13, reimbursement of coursework revised. And then 8.14, the IHSA membership renewal for the 2019-2020 school year. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second. Motion is second. Any discussion or corrections? Okay, roll call please.
McNutt?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Essing? Yes. Knopfinger?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. I'll even, get to this part. Okay. And then we're moving on to action items for the personnel. We got the personnel of 9.12, employment of certified personnel. Okay. Okay, is there a motion to approve the employment of Andrea Dean, who's a special education teacher? 9.11A.
I move. Second.
Motion is second.
We went through the process. We still have a special education position open, and we are continuing to search for the second teacher. So we should hopefully see one at the next board meeting. But Mrs. Dean did a fine job. We're looking forward to working with her.
And this was on our approved personnel increase, okay?
This is actually a retirement.
Oh, it is. This one's a retirement.
I see she's also a coach. And
That helps.
Yeah, it would help in nature if we had a breakdown. I mean, for me, sometimes when I look at these, I mean, just for our, is this a replacement or not necessarily here, but you could put an attachment, or if it's part of our plan to add faculty, because I've never.
Sure. Okay, roll call, please.
Essing? Yes. Knopfinger?
Yes.
Butler?
yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
McNutt?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 9.11B, and approve the employment of Katie Horton for the English teacher.
This is also a replacement.
Okay.
So she's replacing a retiree. Once again, good interviews. I will tell you, if you want to know if the teacher shortage is real, it is. We're starting to see a decrease in the number of candidates. It's pretty significant. So this process is becoming more interesting.
Is there a motion to approve as presented?
Second.
Motion is second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Knopfinger?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
McNutt?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Essing?
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving on to 9.11C, approve the employment of Carrie Schmidt, the counselor.
This is a new position. It's tied to growth, so this will be our 5th counselor. Mrs. Schmidt did a great job. She has experience, and we're looking forward to working with her as well.
Okay, great. Is there a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second. Motion second. Further discussion?
I guess I just have a question that's not pertinent necessarily to this one, but so we'll have 5 counselors.
Yes.
Meaning, will we break up the students into new groups then?
Yes.
Okay, so some kids will end up switching. So.
Yes.
Thanks.
Roll call, please.
Fisher?
Yes.
McNutt?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Essing? Yes. Knopfinger?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving on to 9.11D, approve the employment of Samantha Schultz for the new science teacher.
And this is a new science.
Okay.
Okay, this is not a replacement, this was tied to our personnel list. So, once again, had a great interview with her. I think she'll do a great job.
Is there a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Did I read on her resume that she was a student teacher here at one point? Is that for the?
No, she's currently filling a maternity leave here.
Oh, okay, so I'm getting that, not something. Okay.
Which is nice, because we've seen her in action.
Good. Roll call, please.
Butler,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
McNutt,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you. Moving on to 9.11E, approve the employment of Megan McLaughlin for FCS teacher, which is,
Family Consumer Center.
thank you.
And she's a replacement for retail.
Okay. Good.
Once again, one of those positions that's tough to find, so we were very happy to meet with Megan. She did a great job.
Perfect. Is there a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
McNutt.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to 9.12, request of a leave absent request from Holly Ruthbeth Davis, Director of Technology. Is there a motion to approve the leave of absence as presented?
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
McNutt,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Knopfinger,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Motion carries. On to 9.13, approve the 2019-2020 school calendar. And you can talk a little bit about this, I
I'm
think.
going to talk a little bit about this. This is the best that we can do at this point in time. We're waiting for some final decisions from ISB to tell us what we can do with electronic learning days and some other questions. But this is a pretty well fleshed out calendar. It gives you, and the big thing is we want to try to get out dates for people that are looking to next year and trying to plan. So let me just hit some of the highlights. The Institute Day and the first day will be August 12th is the Institute. The first day with students will be August 13th. As you can see, Christmas break will fall. Students, their last day would be the 19th. We'll have teachers for an institute on the 20th, and then the 23rd of December through the 3rd of January. So students would return on January 6th. We do have a spring break scheduled for March 23rd through 27th. And you can see at the end, the last day for students without any emergency days would be May 20th. The Institute falling on the 21st, and there are 5 emergency days in this calendar. That provides 176 attendance days. I will tell you the unique thing that we're looking at for October 11th, which is traditionally an Institute Day. What we're talking about doing is doing our Thursday night parent-teacher conferences on October 10th. And then the half day, which would be carryover parent-teacher conferences on the 11th in conjunction with the Teachers Institute. Usually in a high school, the turnout for a Friday parent-teacher conference is pretty low, so we feel like that might be a good combination. It keeps us within the terms and conditions of our 180-day contract for teachers and allows us to continue to move. That could change a little if they allow us to use parent-teacher conference dates as an electronic learning date. If that does occur, we may look at changing not the Institute Day, but the day of the parent-teacher conferences. So for right now, that's what we're looking at. If we need to amend, we can. Okay.
Couple.
Yes.
So that'll probably be homecoming, I guess, is what we're trying to figure out. Right?
It should be on the 11th. We try to avoid that week because of the Institute. That's a bad day to try to run homecoming because we don't have students here.
I guess my only question, I mean, usually when it's homecoming, we have a half day, right?
No.
Well, it's early
It's the Friday,
dismissal.
it's early dismissal.
Is it just early dismissal?
Yeah, just the Friday of the parade, I think
Yeah.
dismissal's at 2.
That's it.
I think the other
Oh,
districts get out.
Because
Oh,
a
okay, it's a
good
grade
number of
school
our
thing.
kids move over, yes.
Yeah, yeah, it's the grade
Half days at
schools that do
grades.
the half, okay. All right, and then the other thing is, we're starting pretty early. How are we coordinating with the grade schools? They're going to start later than us, I take it.
They might. Some of them are going to start around that time. Our key factor is, and I've been very direct with this and won't break from it unless I'm directed by the board to. We need to split the semesters and we need to end first semester at Christmas break. Because if you don't, if you carry it into second semester, you will lose at least 2 weeks of instruction. And I don't think that's what we want to do. So the reason I say that is that they've gone on break for 2 weeks, they come back, and now you spend 2 weeks reviewing everything that you covered during the entire first semester to get them ready for final exams.
That makes sense. And so, you know, you guys, the administration's been doing a great job with, and Ann with getting the message out, but I assume this is something after we approve this, we would be ready to push it out and
Yes.
maybe an explanation, because I hear people saying, well, why do you guys keep pushing it out more and more? It's cutting into the summer, but I think if you give that explanation for student learning, it makes a lot of sense.
On the other hand, if they don't have the finals over, they have to study and to go back, then that is a problem for the parents too.
Right, yeah, yeah. But I think a lot of times if people just understand the rationale behind it, they're like, oh, well, that makes sense.
Because they're connected.
Technically, there are only 176 attendance days, so no matter how you cut it, if you start earlier, you end earlier.
Right.
You're not increasing or decreasing
No, yeah, I
summer.
know what you mean.
So you're actually ending earlier and then start, all you're doing is shifting.
Yeah,
so-
yeah, you're just shifting it.
Yeah.
I think we've been doing that the last few years.
Yes,
also. It's
this
worked out well.
year's day one was the 13th, I want to say. So, and I'll give you a wash on next year's calendar, but I think it starts a little later. You know how the calendars will cycle. It's not just going to continue to creep earlier in August. The goal is to try to split those semesters as evenly as possible. So as you can see, we have 87 attendance days first semester, and then second semester we're looking at right at 90, actually 89 is the exact.
And then we do have to factor snow days in if they come in and they're showing on that chart too, so.
And those 5 days don't count as attendance days until they're used, because then you put another not in attendance day somewhere else in there.
Well, I know you've been working hard on that with the new request from the state and the union and all that. You've been working together, so thank you for doing that. Is there a motion to approve the new 2019-2020 school calendar as presented?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Butler?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
McNatt?
Yes.
Ford?
Yes.
Essing?
Yes.
Knopfinger?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Moving on to 9.2, approve the additional work for the bleachers. Dr. Freeman?
Yes, and we'll talk a little bit about what that is. We'll start there. So as you can see, there's a footprint of the bleachers. Our originals are, I'm going to stand up and point because it just makes me happy. Our original drawings had one, what they call vomitory. I'm going to call it a pass-through because that makes me happier. Once again, happiness is important. So we have one in the original, but what we have talked about and what the facilities committee talked about in great detail was originally that concrete ended about right here. So you had this only, and the rest of this would have been under the bleachers and no real concrete. So the only way to get over to the Pantherplex, which is where our concession stands and restrooms are, will be to walk down in front of everybody in the bleachers or to cross even further down on the ground in front of the bleachers. And through the course of the discussion, we felt for two purposes that this should probably change. We added a second egress area or pass-through, and we put a sidewalk that now runs all the way under the bleachers so that people that need to use the restrooms or go over to the Pantherplex or even when we exit the stadium can now egress through 4 points. Okay, we have the two lower points located here. Here, now I feel like I'm working for an airline, and the other two here and here. so they can then cross through and under the bleachers behind. I think people will be a little more comfortable with that, but also do feel that's important when you're trying to empty a set of bleachers that holds around 2,500 people. That's a lot of people going through one or two bottlenecks, so this gives us more. There is cost associated with it, but in the long run, this is a large project that we hope to have hang around for as long as our last set of bleachers, which is around 40 years. You know, now the life expectancy of bleachers is usually around 30. So, but that's a long time. We want to get it right so that we don't have to try to correct it later. Anyway, hopefully that kind of covers everything, right?
It makes a lot of sense when you think about the football season starting early during the summertime and some of the storms and so forth. I remember at graduation a few years ago, we kept watching the skies and thinking about vacating that football field. That would have been much simpler because, but in this case, getting those people down off the bleachers, this would be far, far safer.
It provides handicapped accessibility at the locations as well. I will say in the 5 years that I've been here, 4 of the years, we've had to empty the bleachers for storms at a varsity football game, where we actually had to cancel the game and then come back and finish it the next day. So that's a real example, and it does happen. On the cost for this, and I think this is something that I've been asked, is about $93,000, a little over 93, but most of that is concrete work, and it's tied to the sidewalk, but a lot of it is curb and guttering that's going along the backside of the bleachers to keep water with sheet flows off of this parking lot. Sheet flow is a simple way of saying it all just runs off the parking lot. That curb and guttering is there to keep it from running into the bleachers and start giving us any type of erosion issues in the foundations of the bleachers, and that's a very important part of the project. And it's not cheap, but it's definitely something that needs to be done to protect the investment over time. So that's where most of the cost is coming from. The cost from the bleacher company was relatively small for the extra pass-through, which is really what they're working at. And then we're waiting on a small electrical package, which would include lighting for the pass-through and lighting under the bleachers so people can see, because we do have games at night.
Well, and we've been working closely with Farnsworth and
Yes.
PJ Air. When we were tweaking the fence a little bit, we felt that that was a need and a necessity, and then we took it to committee and finance, and so it's been worked out very nicely, so happy they could do that. Any other questions about the bleachers for those that haven't been coming to the meetings or need an update? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the addition? No, well, actually, that would be coming from committee, right?
Yes.
That would be coming from the facilities committee, so we don't need a motion or a second, but we would like a roll call.
McNutt? Yes.
Warren? Yes.
Essing? Yes. Knopfinger? Yes. Butler?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you. That will make it, contractors a little bit happier, I'm sure, so. 9.3, it's the yearly time to approve the school resource officer, the SRO, for the contract for the 2019-20 school year.
And I believe what you see there represents about a 2.5% increase, which I think is pretty standard for what you're seeing with the raises for the other policemen.
Well, it's a much needed personnel here, so is there a motion to approve as presented? So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Butler?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
McNutt? Yes. Warren?
Yes.
Essing? Yes. Knopfinger? Yes.
Motion carries. And now on to 10, we're moving into executive session where we'll be talking about, is there a motion to move? Okay. Collective negotiation matters between the district and its employees of their representatives and the deliberation concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of the employee, and then also the student disciplinary cases. Is there a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Essing? Yes. Knopfinger? Yes. Butler?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
McNutt? Yes. Warren?
Yes. Motion carries, and there will be an executive session
action item afterwards. And then, is there a motion to adjourn? No, we don't do that. No, move it. So then it's moving to executive session. Okay.